For years, the warning signs were brushed off as background noise. Awkward moments laughed away, troubling clips turned into memes, and serious questions quietly ignored. But now the conversation is being reopened as Curtis 50 Cent Jackson pushes new scrutiny through his documentary efforts, forcing the timeline back under the spotlight. The center stands Sean Diddy Combs, a powerful music industry figure who shaped countless careers, while Justin Bieber appears as a young star drawn into that influential circle long before he could fully grasp its weight. This isn't about internet hype or recycled rumors, it's about power, influence, and how the truth can stay hidden for years when too many powerful interests benefit from keeping it that way. Justin Bieber's rise was presented as the ultimate modern success story, but behind the spotlight was a far more complicated reality. As a young performer, he was navigating powerful adult spaces where status, access, and influence often seemed to outweigh age-appropriate boundaries. Old footage and interviews reveal moments that lived in plain sight for years, brushed off as normal celebrity culture instead of raising serious questions about the environment surrounding him. This isn't about one isolated moment, it's about a pattern and an industry often conditioned to look the other way. When youth becomes a gateway to opportunity, the real question isn't fame, it's accountability and who ultimately answers for the price that comes with it. For years, Curtis "50 Cent" Jackson positioned himself as an outsider to Sean Diddy Combs' inner circle, close enough to observe the climate but unwilling to fully step inside it. At the time, many dismissed his comments as nothing more than industry rivalry. But as legal scrutiny grows and public perception shifts, those same remarks are being revisited with new weight and sharper focus. This doesn't confirm every claim, but it does reshape the narrative, showing how warnings can surface long before they're formally acknowledged. The uncomfortable truth is that red flags are often easiest to ignore when the messenger is someone people would rather silence. And within that same power structure, Justin Bieber's proximity to influential circles highlights a larger industry pattern, where careers can rise or stall depending not on transparent systems but on access to powerful gatekeepers operating behind closed doors. The deeper issue isn't only about what may have happened behind closed doors, it's about why accountability often collapses in systems where success depends on staying close to power. When advancement is driven by access rather than transparency, boundaries begin to blur and caution is seen as weakness instead of protection. In that kind of environment, the real fault line becomes authority itself: who truly has the power to say no and who ultimately pays the price when they do. Long before Justin Bieber rose to become a global superstar, Usher had already spoken about entering the orbit of Sean Diddy Combs as a teenager. Years later, Usher acknowledged that the environment he stepped into carried pressures far beyond what someone his age should have faced. This history isn't merely rumor. It represents a precedent. When similar dynamics appear across different generations of rising stars, coincidence begins to lose its credibility, and a troubling pattern comes into focus. One where influence, trust, and power are passed down without meaningful change. Concerns were recognized once before, the pressing question becomes impossible to ignore. Why did the same structure remain untouched when the next young star stepped into that very same corridor of power? As scrutiny surrounding Sean Diddy Combs intensified, many voices that once stood closely aligned with him quietly retreated into cautious silence. In sharp contrast, 50 Cent chose to speak louder, drawing attention to an unspoken equation that has long defined the entertainment industry. Speaking out can fracture powerful alliances, while silence often preserves them, at least until the line between loyalty and self-interest becomes impossible to distinguish. What we're witnessing isn't simply panic, it's calculation. In a world where truth can collide directly with professional survival, and where staying quiet is often the safest move, the central question grows impossible to ignore. Can genuine accountability ever exist inside a system designed, first and foremost, to protect itself? Justin Bieber has never publicly accused Sean Diddy Combs of criminal wrongdoing. However, his candid reflections on anxiety, instability, and emotional exhaustion add meaningful depth to a far more complex story. Bieber has openly described what it felt like to be thrust into overwhelming global fame at a very young age, surrounded by powerful adults with competing interests while trying to navigate extraordinary success without the guidance or emotional tools needed to safeguard his well-being. That history doesn't offer simple answers, but it does challenge easy assumptions, revealing the heavy personal cost of growing up too quickly inside an industry where protection and stability were often not the first priorities. The real issue here isn't about delivering a legal verdict, it's about understanding the human impact behind the headlines. Harm doesn't always arrive through dramatic accusations or breaking news. Sometimes it reveals itself years later through quiet instability, emotional strain, or pain that was never given the space to be fully understood. When intense pressure, early fame, and constant exposure are built directly into the structure of an industry, the damage can accumulate slowly and silently, without a single explosive moment to point to. And that reality forces a deeper, more uncomfortable reflection. If the problem is rooted in the system itself rather than one individual event, why do we often demand one clear accusation before acknowledging that something within that system has already failed? When Sean Diddy Combs' story reached a federal courtroom, the conversation shifted from online speculation to a formal arena governed by filings, testimony, and procedural rigor. Indictments, rulings, and appeals define not only what could be responsibly stated but also cast a broader spotlight on the institutions surrounding the case. Courts are built to judge conduct, not culture, and that distinction leaves deeper, systemic concerns untouched. The message is unmistakable. Legality and morality are not the same, and a procedural outcome does not automatically repair the structural harm that may have been inflicted. So, when the gavel falls and the case closes in the record books, the more pressing question remains: does accountability truly The intersection of 50 Cent, Sean Diddy Combs, Bon, and Justin Bieber exposes a deeper reality about the structures of celebrity power. Authority consolidates at the top, vulnerability sinks to the bottom, and accountability often lags behind. Youth is packaged as raw authenticity, proximity is presented as mentorship, and silence is rewarded as professionalism, creating a culture where imbalance feels normal rather than alarming. This isn't about blaming a single figure, it's about recurring patterns that consistently produce fallout. When the same framework keeps generating the same consequences, the focus shifts from isolated